call them the globalists. They're the Illuminati. These are all synonyms for each other, I think. But they're wanting to awaken a lot of people because the way they see it, it's the divide and conquer thing. They create chaos so they can bring in the order. In this case, it's the New World Order. And that's part of awakening a lot of people to become conspiracy theorists. And they know, like I said, they already know a lot of us are going to awaken anyway, but they want to have control of that. They want to be in control. That's why the Illuminati, they've infiltrated this truther movement, the 9/11 truther movement.
Right.
Any kind of things that you see on like YouTube involving it, Facebook groups, they control most of that. And they're, like I said, they're wanting to awaken people, and then they'll confuse them with all these differing theories within theories. So we're fighting amongst each other too. And
Project Mockingbird, right?
Yeah, I guess you could call it that. I've heard of that. I don't know much about that, but I've heard of that. So that's their agenda. And because they've created all the opposing groups throughout history, whether you call it Democrats, Republicans, the Crips, the Bloods, any kind of groups you can think of throughout history that we have seen, they've created that. And like I said, out of chaos, they bring their order. Once we're all in chaos, we look up to Big Brother government to help save us. And that's what's been happening. That's what continues to happen. And that's why they're going to accomplish their plan.
Unfortunately. Now, when I mentioned Great Flock of the New World Order, was that published before you met up with Jordan Crone? Since he's republishing it, right? I mean,
right. It was published before that. I knew Jordan even before I wrote it. I wrote it in 2011. And it was published under Great Flock Press. You know what that means? That's not published. But, it was influenced basically by just, I had to do something after learning about the conspiracy. So, and I had been into writing before that. I had never had any books published. I've had several short stories published and whatnot. I decided to write it, and I remember sending Jordan a very controversial chapter in it, asked what he thought of it. He really liked it a lot. He encouraged me to go ahead and write it. So, I mean, since then, and one of the stuff that's covered in that, it's conspiracies that a lot of people already know concerning the New World Order. I mean, I put my own spin on it in a lot of places, but since then, that's 2011, I've developed more of my own theories, and you'll see a lot of that come out from top Illuminati, so I've kind of changed my views to an extent. But it's still the New World Order, and that view's not going to change the New World Order conspiracy, which is, in a nutshell, appropriately called a nutshell, which is the depopulation of most of Earth's population and of humans, and then they will enslave us in a totalitarian government system. But yeah, to get back to your question, I wrote it back then, and since then, several other things are happening, which is very interesting to me, and I foresaw them happening, but like I said, I didn't develop those theories in a vacuum. It was from what I've learned in researching, and a lot of that research, yes, it did come from YouTube, but then, you look into the primary sources, and YouTube is a good place to go to learn a lot of interesting information. That's a lot of fun to watch. It's entertaining. These videos upon videos
influence on your writing style, didn't he?
Yeah, he's influenced me in a lot of ways. I just explained one way, but yeah, his writing style too, the cryptic and mysterious nature of his writing style. And I've read several of his books and a lot of other books of Bizarro genre. And I wouldn't call Great Flight the New World Order Bizarro necessarily. Pop Illuminati sort of edges on it. But yeah, the cryptic nature of it. Yeah, that's a big influence from his writing on it.
You know, one thing about believing
it can grow test.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that plug. That was definitely not a shameless one. The one thing about believing in conspiracies or following, researching them, is that it does not earn you any friends, but people they still think that you would do it. People would do it to achieve some sort of notoriety, which is another thing that's absurd. You actually lost some friendships over this personal struggle of yours, haven't you?
Man, it's a strain on friendships and so forth, which, yeah, but it is what it is. It definitely, you become sort of the outcast.
Which begs the question, why would anyone do it for attention? And unless you really believed it and you had conviction with what you were saying,
Right. Yeah. I don't see any reason to do it for attention. Right. If I wanted attention, there's other ways that would bring me attention and would bring me more acceptance. Like you're just saying yourself, you don't really get acceptance that way, except for from a lot of certain like-minded people, certain others who are awake.
Yeah, if you wanted attention, you'd go on something like America's Got Talent. You wouldn't be shouting and decreeing the loss of freedoms, in America. That's not going to earn you any friends. And, but, you mentioned Pop Illuminati. That's your upcoming book, Pop Illuminati Volumes 1 and 2. Talk a little bit about that. Is there a release date in place yet, and what will they focus on?
Okay. Pop Illuminati gets started out as a single project, not going to be divided into volumes. And I don't know if there's going to be a volume 3. There might be, but it hasn't been written yet. Pop Illuminati Volume 2, most of it's been written, but I've written some scenes in the last couple weeks that weren't going to be in there before. It's made it a whole lot better. But it started out as a project. Again, Jonathan told me about Copeland Valley Press looking for some years to this, and it was a lot of fun writing, and I'm still writing it, and I involve my personal life, which I consider my mystical life, my metaphysical life, my creative life, and synchronicity to writing this whole thing. So it's kind of a madness, and it's turned out really well. Okay, it's a lot of fun. Like I said, very entertaining, a lot of fun.
Well, I think your career is just getting started. Daniel, did you have any questions that you chime in with?
Well, I was going to say, what did you think about what's going on in the media right now with that guy, I forget what his name is, the guy's fleeing from country to country, and how they're...
Snowden?
Yeah.
I don't really have any thoughts on that. I haven't looked too much into it. I don't watch the news a whole lot lately. I don't even have cable right now. When I catch it, it's at a friend's house and stuff. I've seen that on the internet. I'll be at the gas station. I'll see some headlines. That's all I need to see anymore. I don't need to, get involved with all the little details because I already know what I can just see on the surface of everything. So I don't really know. I don't have an opinion on that to give a good opinion.
Well, basically, he's a whistleblower for the National Security Agency. He was a contractor, and he basically blew the lid off all the surveillance that they're doing of American citizens, which is no shock, really. Would you be shocked to hear that?
He was a whistleblower.
He exposed the rampant surveillance of the NSA. And so now he's in Russia or Hong Kong or somewhere, seeking refuge from the American authorities, who are mad